to an episode of QI where I'll be asking quite interesting questions about questions and qualifications. I will be invigilating. The panel's phones have been confiscated, and joining me are the neatly underlined Nish Kumar. The slightly smudged Ade Adepitan. Asking for extra paper, it's Holly Walsh. And no, you can't go to the bathroom, Alan Davis. And their buzzers are all asking the really big questions. Holly goes...
Where have all the flowers gone?
Yeah, it's a good question, right? Yeah. Ade goes...
Is this the real life? Is this just fantasy?
Nish goes...
Is there life on Mars?
Alan goes...
What's new, pussycat?
There's the school bell. There are 8 questions tonight, and you should attempt 3 of them. Please show you're working. You can turn your papers over and start now.
This is my worst nightmare.
Oh my God,
This is terrible.
Oh, God.
Does it make you actually feel
Yeah, I feel
anxious?
physically sick.
I am sweating.
These have been made up for us, and it says on the inside, this page has been left intentionally blank. And it says here, this one was an accident.
Good list of equipment required on
Oh, yes, what have you got?
paper. Well, it says you need a Walther PPK with silencer.
Mine's got for equipment required disposable gloves and a schematic of Dungeness B power station.
I've got a kilogram of self-raising flour and a map of Sheffield town centre.
Michael just says, bring your own booze.
Let me ask you a question that is not on paper. What is the hardest exam in the world?
I mean, I hope the answer's doctor.
No, this is actually apparently tougher than that.
Oh, isn't it a vet is harder than being a doctor? Because that's what vets always say. They're like, oh, doctors do it in 7.
Yeah.
We do it in 9 or
Yeah,
11.
with our hands up a cow's arse, yeah.
What are you diagnosing there?
I'm not a vet, darling, I've no idea, but...
You're blacking your way through the exam.
Yeah.
Stick it up there.
Yeah, exactly.
Sandy, I don't know why in your thing of you putting your hand up a cow's arse, you're also doing a banger move.
Inside the cow, reaching out. Is it to get a job at Apple or Google or one of those?
No, it's the test to become a commander of a Royal Navy submarine. Is thought to be the hardest exam in the world. It is, in fact, known as the Perisher. Officially, it's called the Commanding Officers Qualifying Course, but it's so tough that officers from other nations think it's the thing to take. The failure rate, it varies from year to year, but it's about 30 to 45%.
Wow.
And if you fail, you cannot serve on a sub in any capacity.
You can serve in Subway, though.
The elves have just told me that it's a myth about the 9 years for a vet training. It can be done in 4.
I don't believe that. When you're a doctor, you only have to know how one, organism works. But when you're a vet,
yes,
people come in with, oh, my stick insect's got eczema, and then someone else is like, this horse is going to explode!
It's gonna blow. Is it ticking?
That's the ultimate Trojan horse.
Absolutely.
It's simple. You just stick your hand up its arse and give it one of these. That's me unscrewing the bomb.
I think animals are like cars. They all work the same way, really.
We've spent a fortune on my cat. I've spent over £1,000 in the last 2 years on my cat.
£1,000?
Trying to make it into a dog.
So, what's wrong with the bloody thing, apart from it's a cat?
They're hard to come by cats, aren't they, after all?
You know those bits of elastic that keep chicken legs together like that? It swallowed one of those and it went all through its system,
right,
tied up tied it all up.
That's why you need to go up.
Yeah,
and go
exactly.
Get it out.
Anyway, she died, so that's fine.
Oh, my God.
Well, I wasn't going to pay £1,000. Come on.
So, submarines. They do 3 months of theoretical work. There are simulations and exercises at sea. They're kept sleep-deprived and stressed. They get them drunk and see how they operate with a hangover. And nevertheless, right on the very last day, you can fail. And if you do fail, you get called into the captain's cabin, you're given a glass of whiskey, and you're escorted to land, and you never serve on a submarine again.
At least you get a glass of whiskey.
Yeah. In America, you have to pass a 150-question exam to become a certified cheese professional. You need, I love this, 4,000 hours of working with cheese.
I've got that already. I just stand in front of the fridge and, like, eat it, because there's no calories if you take it straight out of the fridge.
Is that right? No, there's a reading list of at least 32 books that you have to read.
A cheese reading list?
Cheese reading list, yes.
Is that a sort of health and safety reading list?
It's about origins, manufacturing, pasteurising, all of the different elements.
I reckon after about 3,000 hours, you get cheese bored.
To get a master sommelier diploma, so in other words, to know everything there is to do with wine, you have to identify a wine by its grape, by its region, the year. And since 1940, only 200 people have passed the exam.
Don't they get their noses insured for, like, hundreds of thousands of pounds? It's all about having a good nose.
You can't smoke as well, because that kills all your taste buds and smell buds.
Who wants to have a glass of wine without a
Booze
fag,
and
eh?
fag.
Oh, yeah, master sommelier, mate.
I mean, this is absolutely true. I have never done cocaine, and I told a friend of mine that, and he said, it's a real waste of that nose.
Right, moving on. Exam papers away, please.
Oh, phew.
Can you name the question in the least successful poll of all time?
Should the United Kingdom be or remain in the European Union? Take that, people on the internet who say, I bring everything back to Brexit.
It is not that.
Not that.
Although it is to do with Europe, I can tell you that. So when's the last time there was a massive bust-up with Europe?
1939.
Yeah, so the Second World War. There was...
That was a bust-up, wasn't it?
That was... it was a to-do.
It was.
Carry on.
It was a fracas.
We had a poll?
There was a wonderful and eccentric scientist called Geoffrey Pike, and he tried to avert World War II using an opinion poll.
We tried everything.
What he was interested in was having some kind of plebiscite, finding out what the public wanted. And Hitler had frequently relied on plebiscites to gauge opinions, and they were rather fashionable and plausible, and Pike thought that he could sway opinion. So in 1933, the Oxford Union had held a debate in which the student audience had declared they would not fight for king and country, and the press reported that Hitler had taken a very close interest in the result. In 1939, Pike sent 10 specially trained volunteers to Germany to question the populace, to work out how they felt, and then he was going to present Hitler with the detailed findings. And hopefully he thought it would put Hitler off from going to war.
Well, that worked, didn't it?
Well, it's such a British idea, because he said he didn't want the men to openly say why they were doing it, so they all went disguised as golfers. And each one interviewed 10 Germans a day, asking whether Germany could win the war.
Dressed as golfers?
Dressed as golfers, yes. And then Pike wanted to meet them and find out what they were doing, and he thought it was too much to also go as a golfer, so he sneaked in...
He went as a sheep.
He went as a canary buff, complete with a caged canary. And he had code names. He used to write to his spies as Aunt Marjorie. And they did find the results that they were looking for. Most Germans didn't want to go to war. They were ambivalent about the Nazis, but sadly, it was a bit late. They went in August 1939, and of course, war broke out in the start of September. But don't you love that a man thought, I know what we'll do. We'll go disguised as golfers.
Just
Sort it
so random.
Yeah. Geoffrey Pike went to the polls to try and prevent Hitler going to the polls.
There's the war's not happening now, you know.
Now, some people are introverts, some are extroverts. What kind of vert are you?
I think I'm a bit of both, actually.
I think you would be right. I think, as far as we can tell, most people are, in fact, a bit of both. Do anybody know who came up with the idea of introverts and extroverts?
Oh, Mr. Vert.
Mr. Vert.
First name, Per.
I really hope they use that as the still for radio.
Me and Alan were just perfect.
People will be like, I knew it. I knew they'd catch up with him one day.
It was Carl Jung, the great Swiss psychoanalyst.
Oh, what a
Great
portrait!
glasses. Great.
Good, isn't it? I don't know how he could see through them. That's weird. So it's about your motivation. So either you get your motivation from within yourself, and that makes you an introvert, or from your surroundings and your relationships, and that makes you an extrovert. But Jung himself said that introverts and extroverts are the minorities, and we're mostly ambiverts.
Ambivert.
Ambivert. You're an ambivert.
Yeah.
You can vert with both hands.
Nice.
But it's very bad news for something called the Myers-Briggs type indicator.
Oh, is
Oh,
that
that's insanity.
personality types?
It's a personality test.
Yeah.
So it was invented by a woman called Catherine Briggs and then her daughter, Isabel Myers, and they worked on it together. They had no particular expertise in this area, and they developed it because Catherine Briggs met her future son-in-law, didn't think he fitted with the family, and wanted to find out why. So she developed this personality test and basically divides people into particular types of categories. So you get extroverts versus introverts, which we already know, not really a thing, and then sensing versus intuitive, thinking versus feeling, and judging versus perceiving. The thing about it is, it's really sort of nonsense, but it is used by HR departments around the world. 2 million people take this test every year in 26 different countries. In the USA alone, 200 federal agencies use it, and it really is ridiculous. It's a bit like the horoscope. You just can't divide the whole world up into 12 categories.
Oh, that's classic Libra, that is.
My dad was forced to take it at work. I don't know how he managed this, but I think he failed. He said I was basically a sociopath, and he told me, my mother and my brother, and we took, in his words, too long to respond. Oh, no, Dad!
The problem with it is it's too binary. It's an either-or thing that you have to use to determine personality. Ridiculous. It's also self-reporting, so if you think, for example, that you're an extrovert, that is pretty much the result that you're going to come out with. The real problem is that about half the people who take it a second time come out with a completely different result, so it clearly doesn't work. The one I think is most extraordinary is the Minnesota Multiphasic Personality Inventory. It was first written in 1943, and it's been updated a few times, but you basically just have to say true or false, OK? So I'm going to ask those of you who are able, please, will you stand up so that we can see whether you can pass my test here, please?
There's a couple of people here dressed as golfers.
OK. So, hands on your head for true, hands on your bottom for false. True or false? At times, I have a strong urge to do something harmful or shocking.
Oh, my God,
Wow. OK, true or false? I have never indulged in any unusual sex practices.
Unusual is a loose word.
Yeah, it is.
I mean...
Yeah, I had a wank in a porta cabin once. Is that...
That was my dressing room, you bastard. These are genuine questions from this test. I would like to hunt lions in Africa. True or false? Hardly anybody. That's quite a few. True or false? I am fascinated by fire. Oh, wow! OK, and finally, true or false? I am a special agent of God. Thank you very much. Right, applaud yourselves. That was very good. Very well done. But those are genuine questions to try and decide whether or not somebody would be suitable for a job as a clerk. Now, for a bit of role play, 3 of you have got police hats under your desk. Ade, I want you to play good cop. Holly, you play bad cop. Alan, you're going to be normal cop.
Yeah, it's good.
I
There
don't
we
have
go.
the voice to play a bad cop.
Go for it.
I can't, like, I can't swear with this voice. It doesn't, like, give me your fucking secrets. It just sounds delightful.
Nish has a secret.
Ooh.
I want the 3 of you to find out what it is. Please.
You look like a traffic warden.
Right.
It looks
I
like
think-
someone from the Village People.
I think he's about to go to a hen night and strip.
Right, Nish is in the spotlight.
Oh, my
He's got a
God.
secret. Come on.
This is American immigration all
OK.
over again.
Go on, you start.
I know you've got something going on, mate.
Wow! Leave it, you've gone too far.
Oh, we're a comedian, are we?
Actually, yes.
No, be nice. Be nice.
It's a lovely beard you have there, Nish.
Thanks very much, Ade. I've had it combed, and I also really love the fact that you've turned your policeman hat backwards and are wearing it like Samuel L. Jackson's Kangol.
That's what I'm talking about.
Hashtag time's up. We can't flirt at work anymore.
Wait, hang on. You're supposed to be the bad cop.
All right, Sonny Jim.
Sonny Jim.
I'm sorry about this, Mr. Kumar. It's an absolute nightmare.
It's like being interrogated by Dick Van Dyke in Mary Poppins.
Just tell us what the secret is and I'll call her off.
I haven't got a secret. I'm an upstanding member of society. I've not even taken cocaine, in spite of the size and volume of my nose.
Good cop?
Tell us your secret.
No, that's not good. Go to it, be like, listen, sir, terribly sorry.
We switched round. Oh, we're switching round.
Yeah.
Tell us your secret, you... Sonny Jim!
Are you going to confess?
I will confess to farting in Sandy's dressing room.
Oh, my God! Nish farted in Sandy's...
Get him to sign it.
You have a right to remain silent but violent.
I'm really worried, Holly, you're getting into it now.
Shut your face!
So here's the thing about the good cop, bad cop thing. What we do know is it's a very, very good way, if you want to prize a confession out of somebody, it is not a good means of actually discovering the truth. So somebody will just confess, but it's not... Was it true?
So Nish wasn't telling the truth then?
No, darling, he's never been allowed in my dressing room. It's been tested by scientists, and they carried out all sorts of experiments to emotionally destabilise their subjects and then try to manipulate them. But it doesn't work. Anyway, good cop, bad cop is not much cop. Why do English paintings have so many squirrels in them?
I've never noticed a squirrel, but
Well, we-
that one.
Are they sort of like symbols for nut hoarding?
Is it because they had amazing agents and they just managed to get them in all the big paintings?
Like the Kate Moss of
Yeah,
squirrels.
exactly.
Yeah. It's specifically 18th century paintings, and there's a possible reason. At the time, it was common to keep squirrels as pets. Apparently, they often walked around with their owners and they would have little chains and that kind of thing. But why would I ask you this question? Where do you think this question has come from?
Oh, is this one of the first questions in the citizenship test?
This is the one they should have asked instead of, do you want to be in or out of here?
Squexit means Squexit.
Well, before the internet, people used to go to the library to ask questions, and there's a wonderful list of questions that the New York Public Library has been asked since the 1940s. They keep a record of them. This is one of the questions. Why do 18th century English paintings have so many squirrels in them? And there was a follow-up question. How did they tame them so they wouldn't bite the painter? I like these other questions. Where can I rent a guillotine?
I don't want to buy one.
Yeah.
I don't want to borrow one. I'm prepared to pay a reasonable hire fee.
Used once.
And sometimes the questioner could write back. This one is from 1967. The question, what is the natural enemy of a duck? The librarian, what do you mean? Reply, well, a whole flight of them landed in my pool and I have waved a broom at them, but all they do is look at me and quack. I thought I could introduce the natural enemy into the pool area.
Surely the natural enemy of the duck is some small pancakes and hoisin sauce.
No, it's a dog with a canoe.
The library continues this service. They receive about 30,000 calls a year, and they can even outfox the experts. They were asked, could you tell me the thickness of a US postage stamp with the glue on it? And the library replied, sorry, we couldn't tell you that quickly. Why don't you try the post office? And they got the reply, this is the post office. 1967, they got a call from a woman saying, when you meet a fellow and you know he's worth $27 million and you know his nationality, how do you find out his name? And now, to really test who's qualified for the job, we come to the question of general ignorance. Fingers on buzzers, please. What's the best thing for an exhausted bee?
Is there life?
Nish.
Honey?
Addy. What do you reckon, Addy?
Sugar water?
Speed.
So here's the thing, never give it honey. The RSPB say feeding a tired bee honey, it's really a short-term solution. It needs nectar.
Why are the RSPB wading in on this? That's not a bird. Keep their beaks out of it.
They do all sorts of damage because, first of all, honey contains spores of bacteria, and it's perfectly possible the bee may pick those up and take them home and infect the entire hive. It needs nectar, is what it needs.
Who's got nectar? I mean, really?
They're called flowers. The thing is, darling, it either needs a rest, or it needs to be left alone so it will be encouraged to go and pollinate, or it could just be dying. In which case, the kindest thing is to sit with it and give encouragement, I think. So if you make the sugar too thick, you could block up the bee's proboscis. You could then stop it being able to get the nectar at all. I mean, there's nothing really good about giving any honey water or any sugary water whatsoever. Have more bee-friendly flowers in your garden is the best thing you could
But
do.
that's not something you can do there and then. I mean,
No, that's tricky. Just suddenly planting a buddleia just for the sake of it. Here's a few bee facts. Bees have furry tongues. They have long hairs to trap the nectar.
But what sort of bees make milk?
What sort of bees make milk?
Boobies.
I try all series to raise the toe.
Sorry.
Boobies.
One for the kids.
They've got furry tongues. They've also got furry eyes. That's quite weird, right? Yeah, so they have those big compound eyes. They've got hairs between them. They grow at the intersection of the lenses. What I particularly love about bees, they can really take their alcohol. OK, so scientists fed them pure ethanol, and they can drink the human equivalent of 10 litres of wine in a single sitting.
Wow.
Yeah, I know. Give it up for the bee.
come on, we've all done that when we've been dumped.
The best thing you can do for a bee is stock your garden full of flowers. What do bears do in winter?
Shit in the woods. Well, obviously hibernate, right? Watch TV.
No, they're not true hibernators. So there are a few species that go into a deep sleep. It's called a torpor, but it's not hibernation. So a hibernating animal will not wake if there's a loud noise or if you touch it or you move it. But bears in torpor, they can wake really easily. And hibernating animals, their temperatures drop tremendously, whereas the bears just decreases a little bit in torpor, much less dramatic. So the only British mammals which truly hibernate are things like hedgehogs and dormice.
Middle-aged men.
Middle-aged men, bats. So bears don't shit in the woods in the winter. Why? Why do they not do that?
Cold, innit?
Yeah, so what do they... That is true. So what do they do instead?
They pay you good money to just...
Banger it up.
Either they go or they don't go.
They don't go
keep
at all.
it in.
They keep it in. So how
So their first poo of the spring.
Good Lord.
is...
Woo!
Yeah.
Oh, my God. It must be like that bit in Ghostbusters when all the ghosts escape out of the sea.
But there's a particular way they keep it in. Does anybody know what the particular way is that they keep
Cork.
it in?
Cross their legs.
OK, you are the closest. It is...
Really?
Yes.
A cork?
Yes, a cork.
I thought you said pork.
They use a small pig.
Imagine my confusion when
Yes.
he says pork and you go, you're very close.
They make a faecal plug. It's called a tappin. It's sort of faeces dried out and hardened, and then they bung it up inside, and it stays that way for 6-7 months.
Oh!
And then shoots out in a massive...
It is, let's say it's jettisoned in the usual way. Apparently it's not a terrible smell. The North American Bear Centre insists the odour is light and not unpleasant. Anyway, moving on. Have a look at this sequence. It goes 1, 2, 4, 8, 16, 31. What is wrong with the sequence?
Well, they're all doubling up, aren't they?
Yeah.
Apart
And
from
then
the last
there's
one's
one...
one...
So it should be
32,
what? It should be 32. So I love this because it is a sort of philosophical thing. The fact is, we simply don't have enough information here in order to give a single unique solution. So it would be that if everything was doubled... Sorry, I got my stick out. So if you have a quick look at this. So the sequence is actually the number of regions in a circle and divided by the lines connecting a number of points. So if you have a look here, here's the 1, and there's 1 point, so we have just 1 region. Here is the 2, so we have 2 points, and we have divided it into 2 regions. When you get 3 points like that, it divides into 4 regions. 4 points like this, 8 regions. 5, it becomes 16 regions, but when you have 6 points, there are 31 regions, and therefore it is a completely correct sequence that it should go 1, 2, 4, 8, 16, 31. So there are at least 2 valid answers. 32 just seems to us to be the more obvious one. But
That's because of the darts.
What?
32.
Is that in darts?
Yeah. In darts, it's very important, if you can, to try to get to a double 16.
OK.
Because if you miss it, your next dart is probably going to be on a double 8. And if you miss that, you'll be on a double 4.
Right.
But if you're on a double and another double,
Yes.
double 17, for example, and you miss it and you hit the 17, you're not now on a double. You've got to get another odd number, and then you can go on to a double.
How many
best
people...
if you can to work to 32.
Right.
Are there any darts players in who'll back me up?
Yeah.
3. The QI audience and the darts audience.
Is it an Olympic sport, darts? Is it an Olympic?
No, should be, though.
Anyway, I really, really like that we just didn't know enough to say what comes next, so it's a nice QI philosophical point. 1, 2, 4, 8, 16, 31 is a perfectly sensible answer as long as you're asking the right question. If you hold your breath underwater, what is it that makes you want to come up for air?
I mean, the obvious thing is lack of oxygen.
To breathe.
That it's not lack of oxygen.
Too much carbon dioxide.
It is too much. It's the, yeah, exactly right. So, yes. It's our body sensing an excess of carbon dioxide, not a lack of oxygen. You can actually last more than twice as long as the CO2 reflex makes us think. So competitors of something called static apnea, this is an inexplicable thing you do, lying face down in the water and holding your breath. They learn to completely ignore this reflex and they force themselves to stay underwater until their oxygen has genuinely run out, rather than coming up when your internal CO2 sensors go off. So there's a guy called Branko Petrovic of Serbia. He currently holds the static apnea record. Imagine this, he's lying face down in the water. His record is 11 minutes and 54 seconds. Wow. I know, it doesn't sound like it's going to be possible.
Why would you do that?
It is a proper sport. So here's the thing, if you breathe pure oxygen, first it forces CO2 out of your body, so you can last longer. I mean, some people consider it cheating, but it is a way of doing it. Alexei Segura of Spain holds the record 24 minutes and 3 seconds.
Holding his breath?
Can he breathe through his bumhole?
Not if he's a bear.
No, certainly not if he's a bear. Stay in your seats, the bell doesn't dismiss you. I do. Let's take a look at the scores. In first place, graduating summa cum laude. Oh, my word, with minus 13. It's Holly. In second place, scraping through on a 2-2, frankly, with minus 14, Ade. In third place, with a fictional diploma from Trump University on minus 19, Alan. And in last place, with minus 27, barely qualified to wipe his own bottom, it's Nish. Well, that's it for this edition of QI. Thanks to Ade, Holly, Nish and Alan. And I leave you with a quaint thought on qualifications from Rita Mae Brown. Education is a wonderful thing. If you couldn't sign your name, you'd have to pay cash. Good night.